In this video, we'll discuss Spark classification using UnifyML SQL. Here, we use the naive Bayes classifier model with UnifyML SQL. We run our Spark naive Bayes classifier using UnifyML SQL. Now, let's see this simple Spark naive Bayes classifier using a UnifyML query. Spark naive Bayes classifier. Input table, mention your input table. Input columns, mention your required input columns. Target column, specify the column to be predicted. Training sample size, split the data into training and test datasets, mentioning your training data, while the remaining will be test data. Data scaling, scaling the data using the binarizer method. There are 4 scaling methods: min-max scaler, standard scaler, normalizer, and binarizer. Here, we use the binarizer. Save the model for future predictions using the Spark naive Bayes classifier on this data. There are additional parameters for the Spark naive Bayes classifier, which you can refer to in the UnifyML documentation. Input data types. If you need to change the data types of input columns, specify them using the input data types parameter. Training sample size, number partitions. Define the number of partitions and the column on which partitioning should be applied. If you want to apply the PCA model, specify your input PCA model. Save model. Define the output model. Data cleaning. There are 4 data cleaning methods: remove rows, remove duplicates, remove outliers, and fill missing values. Fill with values. If you need to replace null values or modify existing values, use this option. Data scaling. There are 4 scaling methods: min-max scaler, standard scaler, normalizer, and binarizer. For min-max scaler, specify the minimum and maximum values. Input cache ID. If your data is previously saved in a cache, mention the input cache ID instead of the input table. Bytes per chunk. These are the input arguments for the Spark naive Bayes classifier. Specify them as per your requirements. Run this query, and it will execute on the back end of the UnifyML server. The output of the Spark naive Bayes classifier model includes accuracy, test error, and the output model name. Now, let's see the Spark naive Bayes classifier predict function. Spark naive Bayes classifier predict. Input table, mention your prediction input table name. Input model, specify the save model from the Spark naive Bayes classifier. There are additional parameters for the prediction process, which you can find in the UnifyML documentation. Input data types. If you need to change input column data types, specify them using the input data types parameter. Data cleaning. Clean the data using 4 methods: remove rows, remove duplicates, remove outliers, and fill missing values. Fill with values. Replace null values or modify data as needed. Data scaling. Scale the data using 4 methods: min-max scaler, standard scaler, normalizer, and binarizer. For min-max scaler, specify the minimum and maximum values. Input cache ID. If your data is saved in the cache, mention the input cache ID instead of the input table. Save to DB. If you want to store the predicted output in the database, use the Save to DB option and specify the output table name. Overwrite output table. If you need to overwrite an existing output table, set the overwrite output table parameter to true. Save to CSV. If you want to save the predicted output as a CSV file, use the Save to CSV option with the output CSV file name. Bytes per chunk. These are all the input arguments for Spark naive Bayes classifier prediction. Specify them as per your prediction requirements. Run this query, and it will execute on the back end of the UnifyML server. The output of the Spark naive Bayes classifier predict function includes all input columns and the predicted target column. This is how you can run classification datasets using the Spark naive Bayes classifier based on your prediction requirements. Thank you for watching this video.